Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to look at a very important paradigm in D3 called enter, update, exit. So it's important to know because it's how D3 assign visual elements to data points. So enter, update, exit is probably the most critical facets of how D3 works. And probably if you remember nothing from today, and the only thing you may want to take away would be enter, update, exit, enter, update, exit, enter, update, exit. So it's really, really important. So it's related to how D3 assign elements and to your data. So the pattern in enter, update, exit is that it will select a group of elements. So let's say circles that you want to create, and you assign the data to this group of elements. And then based on when your data comes in or to be removed, the elements actually get drawn on the screen. So there are three phases you can think of in enter, update, exits. So in the enter phase, this is where new elements are created for data points that are not yet associated with anything. And then there's the update phase, which is where attributes are set for all elements based on data. And then the exit phase is when elements are removed that do not have data anymore. So elements here in orange are actually visual elements, and data in green are the actual data points. So at a first glance, so this may seem a little abstract. So what do you mean by creating elements of data that are not associated? So they're abstract. So we'll look at an example very quickly now and to figure out what all those means. So here we have data that we want to load. So you imagine in the beginning we actually have no data. And so every time we call the function .data, that is when we load in data or change the data that we are seeing. In this example, imagine you do not have any data yet, and we want to see in all those three phases what we're going to get. So nothing in the beginning. So the first time we call .data, that is when we're going to change the data. So in the beginning, since we don't have data, the first time we call .data, 1, 2, 3, 4 as an array. So that is we're going to see in the enter phase. So highlighted in orange here. In the update phase, you remember that we're going to look at all the elements, right? So since 1, 2, 3, 4 is all we have, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4 is all that we're going to manipulate. And then in the phase 3, the exit phase, so since we're not removing anything, so that means there's nothing there to manipulate. So that is the initial scenario. So to recap, we start with nothing. We load the array, run to 3, 4. And then in phase enter and phase update, we'll be able to manipulate the whole array. And now imagine we are going to change the data. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, now we want to change the data to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to change the data, we will call .data again. So that means internal to D3 is keeping the state of the data so that it can actually track what are the new items that are added. So what that means is that in the enter phase, now the elements there is 5 and 6. While for the update phase, you remember that we're trying to manipulate everything that we have seen. So that means the whole array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for the exit phase, since we're not removing anything, so that means nothing to manipulate. And finally, now suppose we want to remove some data. So data point, we want to remove 4, 5, and 6. So how do we do that? We call .data again. In this case, we only pass in 1, 2, 3. So that's telling D3 that we want to remove 4, 5, and 6. So in phase enter, so nothing to manipulate there since we're not adding new things. Update, we need to think about what it is. But for exit, we know that's easy. So 4, 5, and 6, that's what we're going to manipulate. So what are the question marks? So update is actually still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because nothing has yet been removed yet until the exit phase. So as a recap, so the enter phase is where you will see new data point, and for exit is where elements that will be removed can be manipulated. So also that enter and exit will only exist when the data has been called. While for the update phase, you get everything. Everything that you've seen, everything that you will remove, and so on. So this hopefully will give you a more concrete idea about what the enter, update, exit means. And that's an important thing to know, is because that is how D3 allows you to do transition, how to handle dynamic data, and so on. If it's still a little abstract, I highly recommend that you go to this link down there. Very, very good example to help you better understand what all these phases mean. And there are some more examples, actually. There's one interactive demo to help better explain what enter, update, exit does. And there's even a very long full tutorial about this paradigm. In D3, whenever you call .data, what it assumes about your data is that the index of each data point will become the key. So that means the index becomes a way that it can pull out a particular data point. But often, the index automatically assigned may not be the best way you want to refer to your data. So in that case, then you might want to set it yourself. For example, the 2 lines down there is essentially designing your own function, where you can say, the first one, I want to use the data's ID value as the index. And the second line saying that we want to use the name of the data value. This is a typical skeleton of a D3 program that applies the enter, update, exit pattern. So in the first few lines, you will see that we're loading the data using the .data command. And then after that, we'll be entering the enter phase. And then in the middle is the update. And then finally is the exit phase. So a big warning, when you are looking at a lot of examples online, often you will see that they drop the word group, as in this example, where right after calling .data, they immediately enter the enter phase by calling .enter. So we highly recommend that you don't do that. It's because it may confuse you as in which phase you are working with. And this is particularly important when your data changes, as you will see in later videos, where knowing very precisely when data are added, when data manipulated or removed is incredibly important. And the main reason that often examples can just drop all those and have an interface immediately called after .data is because those charts are static. So relatively simple, so everything can just be all come together. But I highly recommend that you do not, so just include specific commands so that you can very clearly see where the phases are. So in this video, we look at a very important enter, update, exit paradigm, look at some of the caveats in using it, and also some examples to explain it.